Following the furore surrounding the 1 billion rand South African tourism and Tottenham Hotspur, fresh details have now emerged. The Daily Maverick reporting that South African tourism interim CFO Johan van der Walt admitted to having ties to an agency named in original documents of this proposed sponsorship deal. Well, it's believed that this company could benefit once the deal is finalized. Well, let's get some detail now. Someone who knows much more about sports marketing than I do is a professor at the University of San Francisco. That's Michael Goldman. Michael, good morning to you and thank you for joining us here. I understand you are in Johannesburg for now, which is brilliant. We're going to get into the latest that Daily Maverick, which is the very media house that broke this story, is now giving us this morning. But let's start with how popular are these marketing deals that center around sporting teams?
Well, good morning. Yes, such an interesting deal and certainly such a conversation over the last 2 days. The whole country are now sport marketers and trying to work out whether the sponsorship is a good deal or not. They certainly are very popular. We see destination marketing, we see cities, regions, countries, and of course brands taking advantage of people's passion points. And sport is one of those passion points. It's one of those things that get us up out of bed in the morning and get us excited and get us talking to people. And that as a media platform is a great way for cities, regions, countries, and brands to connect with people, get their attention, and encourage them to buy what we're selling. And of course, as South Africa, we're selling the country. We want those dollars and pounds and euros. We want people to come here and spend time in our beautiful country. And so this is a really interesting opportunity, a marketing advertising opportunity that should be considered along with all the other ways in which South African tourism continues to fly our flag internationally.
Yeah. South African Tourism Acting CEO Themba Khumalo at pains yesterday to explain that this is not about the English Premier League, more importantly about the football club involved, that's Tottenham Hotspur. Instead, he says this is about buying access to the audience. So, how does it work?
Exactly, and he's accurate. And of course, we're all attracted by Spurs. We're attracted by the team. We're thinking about sponsorship. But the way to think about this is what else could we spend our money on if we were trying to reach, get attention, and gradually get influence over people and encourage them to come and be tourists. And so typically SA Tourism and any destination marketing organization around the world are accessing different media platforms. And so the way it works is you're buying access to time and space and data. And so whether it's CNN or BBC or Netflix, as mentioned yesterday, or a sports team that happens to play in the English Premiership and have a global reach, these are media properties. These are opportunities to profile your brand, our country, our beautiful tourism assets, and connect with people and encourage them, based on the kinds of things they're interested in doing, encourage them to consider buying us as opposed to buying someone else. So obviously we're focused on the cost. 300 million rand a year sounds like a huge amount of money. Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, the 1.3 billion rand that SA Tourism typically looks to invest in these kinds of activities, 300 million rand a year is a lot, but it's not the whole budget. It's less than a third. And it compares fairly favorably to the other kinds of media platforms internationally that we may be able to buy into. Yeah. And of course, what the acting CEO spoke about yesterday is the aggregation. And so what he was really referring to is that these media platforms, think about CNN or think about Spurs, really bring large numbers of people together and get their data. So if you're a fan of Spurs or a subscriber to CNN, you've given that business a whole bunch of your data, as we do as consumers. That data is then available to sponsors, to partners, to advertisers in order to access us. So if you're a fan of Spurs and this deal perhaps goes forward in some way, shape or form, you'd be getting some kind of messaging from South Africa. You'd be getting some kind of content, something on social media, something direct to your inbox, something during Spurs games that draws your attention to the wonderful opportunities to come and relax, to come and refresh, come and recharge in our beautiful country.
Then let's talk about brand stature, Michael. Brand stature, and couple that with global reach. Tottenham Hotspur, the figure that is being talked about here is close to R1 billion. Are they worth this amount of money? That's question number one. Number two, remember that we have a target as a country, 21 million tourists that we want into this country by the year 2030. Could Tottenham Hotspur deliver on that?
It certainly has the potential, given its global reach and the strong fan connections that it has with its community, right, with its subscribers, with its fans. It certainly has the potential to do that. Now, of course, as soccer fans, we look at Spur and we may have a love-hate relationship with some of those brands. And some of us might prefer Man United. And of course, some of us are Chiefs, Pirates, or Sundowns fans. And so if we're thinking about this as Spurs, as the soccer team, we're missing the business opportunity here to reach those approximately 3 million diehard fans in the UK and the over 100 million diehard fans around the world. What the research tells us here at the Gordon Institute of Business Science and also the work we do internationally, what the research tells us is that fans have a very strong emotional connection, as we know, with their teams. And sponsors who are authentically connected to those teams, we have this halo effect. We have a positive, what's called image transfer. What that really means is that if a brand is sponsoring your favorite team and you see that brand as helping your team perform, helping you have access to your heroes, then you have a more positive connection to that sponsor. And you are much more likely, data after data after data shows, you are more likely to buy the products and services of that sponsor.
Yeah.
That's why the sports industry is so critical in South Africa and across the continent. That's why Spurs and any other brand could take an opportunity like this and bring it to a client like SA Tourism or Procter & Gamble or any other business and say, here's an opportunity for you to drive your business forward by connecting with us. We're certainly, heading towards 15 million tourists. We're coming out of this COVID difficulty where our contribution of tourism dropped essentially by half. And so, we were making a nice contribution, over 6% GDP contribution from tourism. And so we definitely want to increase that. Spurs, as a media platform, along with others, certainly has the potential to do that.
Yeah, I'm desperate to get to this question around the CFO and the possible link to this agency. But quickly before that, time is against us. The country here in question that is being targeted, the United Kingdom, that's where the English Premier League is. Critics are saying, but that's a market that we already have access to. If anything, the people who come from that market have in all probability visited South Africa before. And so the criticism is that we should be targeting new markets. China, India are being mentioned. Is Spur capable of delivering that audience?
Well, certainly the 400,000 tourists on average that come from the UK are one of our largest tourism markets. But that is not a capped market. And there is certainly an opportunity, as SA Tourism will remind us, to increase that penetration into that market. And if you think about how a business grows, one way is to go after new markets, but those are sometimes harder because those new markets, those new customers, they may find us appealing, but that's a tougher sell. Whereas if we already have a strong brand in a certain market and we're able to use additional advertising and marketing campaigns to deeply penetrate that market where we've proven to the market that this is value, that's sometimes an easier sell. So it's a bit of both. Certainly Spurs as a brand with their over 100 million fans outside the UK. And as the acting CEO said yesterday, certainly in Asia, parts of the US, where I'm based now in California, those are really critical markets that Spurs as a brand can provide. Will it provide China and India? Probably not. But SA Tourism, as part of their 1 billion rand that they're spending in order to build our brand globally, I'm sure are considering other media platforms that open up other target segments. Remember, any marketing campaign is not a silver bullet. It's not going to give you everything. If that was so, we would, all brand marketers would just be doing one thing. But we do many things because there are many segments. There are many groups of audiences that we need to appeal to.
Yeah, all right. Let's wind it down then, Michael, so that you don't say I've misquoted you. It sounds like you think that South African tourism would have struck a good deal here. Am I correct? Am I hearing you correctly?
From a return on investment point of view, from a reach and marketing point of view, this deal potentially could be brilliant. Are there important due diligence concerns? Absolutely. Do we need to weigh up the costs here of 300 million rand versus other media platforms? Absolutely. And the agencies and the team at SA Tourism need to be doing that. Do all 60 million of us need to be doing that? I'm not sure. And so it's important that there's oversight. I think it's important that we look closely at how we're spending public money, our taxpayer money, to fund some of these activities. But the experts need to look at all of the different options and make a good call. On the face of it, this deal has the potential to do that quite effectively.
All right. So let's get then to exactly what you are alluding to, that there has to be oversight on deals like this because this is taxpayer money we're talking about. Here's a follow-up story from the very media house that first broke this story, Daily Maverick. They're saying South African Tourism Interim CFO has ties to an agency which could cash in on this Tottenham Hotspur deal. Now, as someone who has some insight into how these deals are structured, a simple question: what is the role of activation agencies in deals like this?
All agencies, activation agencies, sponsorship agencies are critical because they bring a lot of expertise and actually make sponsorships work. So we can sign the deal up front. We can pay $300 million and we get access to an opportunity, access to rights. But it's the agencies, some really awesome, creative and smart agencies we have in South Africa that make it happen. They create the magic through these opportunities. It's a relatively small market. Most people know each other. And so I'm not surprised that senior executives within the marketing fraternity or the business fraternity know each other. The ties, we're going to have to look at that. And what's the extent of that tie? Is it economic ties? Is there a potential economic benefit to people who are involved in the decision around the deal? And that certainly corporate governance needs to address. Typically in these kind of situations, good governance, good ethics, the kind of things we teach our students here in the MBA it gives, you need to recuse yourself. And you need to make sure that you are not in any way involved, either formally or informally, in that decision. And so that's an important consideration for the parliamentary committee, for those of us that are playing a role in kind of commenting and driving this conversation. I think that's critical. And so these questions should be asked. I think we need to find out the information before we jump to some of the conclusions. But that certainly is global best practice. And South Africa leads in that. I mean, the rest of the world can be really corrupt. We know our friends in global soccer. We look at many sports and some of the unethical behaviors and really worrying practices around the world. Typically in South Africa, these deals are done very ethically. And so I would expect the kind of agencies involved, I would expect the global oversight and the parliamentary oversight to address these concerns.
Finally, and very quickly if you can, you've heard Themba Khumalo saying yesterday 88 billion is potentially what South Africa could derive from this deal. And so the question is he correct in his calculations? And if you were in his shoes, by the way, now that we're talking about monies, taxpayers' money, that has to be used for its intended purpose in order to thwart corruption, because that has become synonymous with this country, unfortunately. How would you have communicated this in a manner that is palatable to South Africans who are saying our economic conditions at the moment do not favor this? 1 billion.
The headline number is worrying. 1 billion rand sounds like a lot. It's 1 billion rand over 3 years. It's only 300 million a year. And only, I say, because these are the typical amounts of money we're spending to access global media properties. But the communication here is problematic. The leaked PowerPoint, the fact that this may have moved fairly forward without potential oversight, I don't know. But, those kinds of suggestions over the last 24, 48 hours is concerning. I think the fact that SA Tourism came out very clearly yesterday, addressing these concerns and engaging with the media was good. I think that was a fairly quick response. It's unfortunately very easy to become defensive. Some of the headlines, some of the media have been a bit mischievous in the way that they have framed, I think, this opportunity. It's natural. It's easy to become a little bit defensive. I would obviously guard against that. You want to be open. You want to be clear. But of course, we're talking about some technical marketing and advertising and sponsorship concepts here, which typically 60 million people are not debating on a daily basis. So it's really interesting to see, but there's going to be a lot of concepts that need to be, more fully explained. And I think it's a great opportunity to bring people along. SA Tourism could, if the contracts allow, make this a very transparent process. I mean, wouldn't it be interesting to create a website or create a space where all of us could follow almost on a day-to-day basis how these decisions are being taken in this sponsorship if it goes ahead. And there would be a fabulous education opportunities for everyone to understand how this marketing, advertising, and sponsorship world works.
Michael Goldman, thank you very much for those insights. A worthy conversation indeed. Consultant in sports marketing, sponsorship, and he is attached to the University of San Francisco.
From now on.
Right.